Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Apple Box Chronicles. My name is Peyton Buteau.
And I'm Adryon Thomas.
And today on the ABCs, we're taking you from A to Z on Cameron Crowe and Richard Linklater as part of our Dual Director series. This is a little different from the last one we did, where we did Rian Johnson and Shane Black. We did ostensibly all of those films together. We kind of skipped over a few because they didn't really fit into our narrative, and that's just what we do. We only tell you about things that fit into our narrative. We're not nuanced at all. I'm joking, but we decided it would be better if we split up this segment into different pairs of movies so that we could be a little more thorough, and we had this be kind of a bi-weekly series. So for Crowe and Linklater, what we're doing is we're going to talk about 4 movies today, 2 pairs of movies, and then we're going to move on to the next couple pairs in 2 weeks from now, and so on until we've done all the ones that we want to talk about. And that way we can give everybody something to look forward to and get kind of a better idea, or maybe something not to look forward to. Maybe you're like, oh, these other episodes are so much better. I wish I didn't have to wait 2 weeks for the next one. You'll be free soon enough. So yeah, that's what we're doing. Anything you'd like to add to that?
No, we just knew that when we're doing these dual directors, they could get quite long, and so we just and we don't want to not talk about certain things just to like save on time. So to split it up, it just makes it a lot easier for us to talk about specific things in the movies, and we're not like taking either too much time or not enough time for each thing we want to say.
And in addition to that, it's also because, you know, we got other lives and jobs and stuff, and watching all of these movies before recording one single huge episode is a lot harder than just watching a few. And I mean, we've seen some of these already, but watching a few and then, you know, recording that and then watching a few and then recording that, and it allows us to have these films fresher in mind when we're talking about them. So I feel like there's just no, it's just a win-win. There's just no downside.
Yeah.
Really. And just to give a quick recap of what the segment is, if you haven't listened to our first one, which you should, it was episode 2 of our show. This is essentially where we take 2 directors that operated in a similar, I guess, time period in film history, usually, ideally, and 2 directors that kind of make somewhat similar movies in terms of tone, character, theme, something along those lines. We pair them up, and then we kind of go film for film, and we kind of just take 2 movies that we find work as like a pair or a twin movie. You know, they could be like cousins or something, and we take them and we compare and contrast them to kind of identify like how each filmmaker goes about exploring a similar thing, what's different about them. I guess in order to just give a more concise recommendation and maybe learn something about like the film history of the time, what impacted one filmmaker that might not have impacted the other. You know, you'll notice similarities and differences if you just watch 2 seemingly unrelated movies at the same time together. So that's kind of what we like to do. It's a little experimental, but it's fun.
Yeah. I guess we should just talk about our history with these directors. I guess I'll go first with Richard Linklater, because he's one of my favorite directors. But I think I got started with him. Oh, easy. I saw his School of Rock when it, like, way back when it came out. Didn't know. I was obviously a little kid. I didn't really know who Richard Linklater was, but I loved that movie, and I always wanted to rent it at Blockbuster. But that was obviously my introduction to his stuff. Then I think it was right around the time I saw Dazed and Confused when I was a teen that I kind of noticed who he was, and like, oh, he also did this Before trilogy, which was kind of unique in the fact that it's all taking place in one day, and it's these 2 people just talking, and then each movie is 9 years after the last movie, and I thought that was kind of cool. And I think what really boosted his popularity, or at least the discussion around Richard Linklater, was Boyhood, because I remember when that movie came out, everybody either loved it or thought it was ridiculous to shoot a movie for 12 years straight, basically. But I thought it was a great little experiment. It wasn't even a little, it was kind of a big experiment in terms of how you could kind of track a character throughout time using the same actors and DP and directing style, and I just thought that was kind of cool. But I've always been a fan of Richard Linklater. When I would kind of binge watch his films when I was getting into this stuff, uh, it really he really just showed like a certain like vision and style that I thought was really cool. And even in some of my work when I was writing, I would kind of use his way of structuring dialogue to kind of help me write my own dialogue. So he was a big influence on me. What about you?
For me, Linklater, I think it actually might have also been School of Rock, but I obviously did not know anything about who directed that. I was just like, this movie's fun. It might have been, but if it wasn't that, it was Boyhood, and that was because, yeah, it was kind of the talk of the town. I mean, it was shot in Austin, where we live, but I've lived my whole life, and actually scenes from Boyhood are shot at my elementary school that I went to.
Yeah.
Early on in the movie. Boyhood is one of my favorite films. I've really come to love it. I mean, back when it came out, I kind of just like appealed to the adults in my life who were like, it's boring, it's about nothing. And I was like, oh, sure, okay, I guess so. And then, watching it later, I was like, oh no, this is a fucking masterpiece. You guys are wrong. And I like, yeah, he's very experimental in that way sometimes, and almost like, I guess a director that comes to mind that's also experimental like that is Steven Soderbergh. But anyway, I thought it was a great experiment. I thought it was a successful experiment, and it was really cool. And it's just a nice like story. Well, this is not about Boyhood, but anyway, it's a nice story about growing up in literally the town I grew up in. So I thought it was really cool to see that.
Yeah, and being in Austin, I've actually seen the main actor. Like I've seen him around a few times.
Oh, just walking around?
Well, yeah, when I used to work at my first theater job in Austin, they would come in and watch a movie every once in a while.
That's super cool.
And there would always be it was never when I was working, but Richard Linklater would go to that movie theater every once in a while and like watch something or like sit down and edit his films there. And I would always be so jealous that he was there when I wasn't. So I don't know. It's being in Austin could be pretty cool because you could like just meet a filmmaker you like.
So yeah, for Linklater, he's always been one of my favorites as well because my mother, I think, likes some of his movies like Dazed and Confused. Dazed and Confused, apparently, according to her, was shot either at or near her high school, and she could have been in it, but she like didn't want to be in it, but her friend is in it or something, like as an extra. So yeah, I mean, those movies they've been present in my life for a while. I kind of got into them seriously when I saw the Before trilogy, which was like 4 or 5 years ago now. And those have always been some of my favorites as well. So yeah, one of my favorite directors also for a long time. And I actually, similarly, I was inches, like literally closer than you and I are across this couch from Richard Linklater at Fantastic Fest 2023. I was like talking to somebody else and like I turn around, he's like right fucking there. And he was talking to somebody, so I didn't say anything, but I was like, Richard Linklater is right there.
Man, I would have said so. I would have been like, hey, big fan. I don't know.
He was, well, it was very brief because he kind of like was just saying, hey, can you come with me to this theater to like, they were like helping with projection on something, like doing something. And I was like, are we going to watch Hitman? Is that going to be a secret screening? It wasn't. So.
All right. And Cameron Crowe, for me, Cameron Crowe didn't like leave as much as an impression as Richard Linklater, but I always felt like sort of a connection with his movies, especially like Almost Famous. Like all the music in there I loved. I loved that period, and I just loved that movie a lot. Like it was very much a me movie when I first saw it, and still if I were to see it now. So, and like Jerry Maguire's great. I kind of got into Cameron Crowe stuff because I think of Almost Famous, and I just wanted to get to see like more of his like what he done. And I kind of like it was way back then that I kind of figured, hey, this guy's kind of like Richard Linklater in some aspects, and that was kind of, I guess, the germ of this episode. Was like way a few years down when I first started watching his stuff, because I was like, these two guys are very similar to me, and I think that's kind of what made me want us to do this dual directors. So we'll kind of go into that in a sec.
Well, I mean, given my history with Cameron Crowe, I guess I already inherently believe them to be similar because, again, Cameron Crowe is a director my mom loves. Like, of the few directors where she's actually like, I like this director, he is like one of them. She likes Almost Famous, introduced me to that. That was the first one I saw as well. She likes Singles, I believe. I when we watched Singles for this series, which is not in this episode, but it'll be around, she was like, yeah, I like that movie, and you know. So, I mean, she literally is Frances McDormand from Almost Famous. She's that character. So I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, she even fucking likes Aloha. So we'll see. I mean, like,
we probably won't be talking about. We'll mention it, but I don't think we'll talk about.
Yeah. That's not planned in the segments. But anyway, yeah, Cameron Crowe. I've known about him a lot. I haven't actually seen a lot of his movies. I'm watching a lot of those for the first time here. But I had seen Almost Famous already.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, one of my favorites too. I like that one quite a bit. So I guess
we should just talk about what movies we're going to talk about in this episode.
Oh yeah. I don't even know if that's going to be in the title, so maybe.
That's true. But what we're doing is, and it is going to be a little bit different with this one because one of the movies is not directed by Cameron Crowe, it's just written by him. But we feel like it's such a big part of his
legacy, almost.
Yeah, that we need to talk about it. So we're kind of comparing Dazed and Confused and Fast Times at Ridgemont High together, and we're kind of pairing some Say Anything and Before Sunrise together. So we'll be talking about those 4 movies and kind of go over like what makes them similar, what makes them different, where the styles come in and go out, and what works and what doesn't.
So, without further ado, I guess we can get into the first set.
Yeah.
Which is going to be Dazed and Confused and Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I will go ahead and do my thing that I like to do, and I'll read the synopsis off Letterboxd for both of these movies. Just in case, you know, for context reasons, we're going to talk about what happens in these movies, and so...
Yeah, so spoiler alert, I guess, as
yeah,
well.
I mean, we pretty much always spoil movies when we see them, unless they're new. But yeah. So for Fast Times at Ridgemont High, since this one came out first, based on the real-life adventures chronicled by Cameron Crowe, Fast Times follows a group of high school students growing up in Southern California. Stacey Hamilton and Mark Ratner are looking for a love interest and are helped along by their older classmates, Linda Barrett and Mike Damone, respectively. At the center of the film is Jeff Spicoli, a perpetually stoned surfer who faces off with the resolute Mr. Hand, a man convinced that everyone is on dope.
That's a pretty long synopsis.
Very long, detailed synopsis.
Yeah.
Which is like, I mean, it could just be like, it's a fucking hangout movie or something, like, you know.
It's a movie from the 80s about teenagers.
Yeah. For Dazed and Confused, 1993, this is the adventures of a group of Texas teens on their last day of school in 1976, centering on student Randall Floyd, who moves easily among stoners, jocks, and geeks. Floyd is a star athlete, but he also likes smoking weed, which presents a conundrum when his football coach demands he sign a no-drugs pledge.
Another way more detailed synopsis.
Yeah, man, just...
But as you can see, we both we kind of put these two together because they're kind of like these high school kind of hangout movies where they're not extremely plot based, even though in the synopsis they kind of give a lot of the plot away.
Yeah, they give away like basically the only plot that's there.
Yeah, but other than those kind of small threads of a plot, it's more character based, kind of character relationship based.
Mm-hmm.
And again, these are kind of like hangout movies where you're just kind of watching the characters do their stuff and you're just hanging out with them.
Yeah, and I feel like they're very much interested in the antics of that, and like almost like lit just scenes themselves are like the star of the movie. It's not really the overarching plot.
Yeah.
Because there's so many funny scenes in both of these movies and so many quotable parts.
Yeah, so both these movies are actually on Criterion, and but for Dazed and Confused, which has been on Criterion for a while, there was one of the earlier movies that I got from them, and it's also, I think, the Criterion movie that I own that I've rewatched the most. I also think it has the best like packaging as well.
It has no doubt one of the best packagings, for sure.
And I would watch that thing over and over and over again. It's so rewatchable.
Incredibly rewatchable. I mean, I've seen it several times. I've seen it at home. I've seen it in a theater with you. I've seen it on at the Moody Center, where it's like outside and they inflate a giant screen and you watch it on like a picnic blanket, and that shit was awesome with like food trucks. Yeah. That shit was amazing. It felt like I was in the movie at a certain point. So yeah, just so rewatchable. You could watch it anywhere, anytime.
I have like 3 copies. I have like a DVD, a Blu-ray, and a 4K.
Yeah, you do. I only have one, but I respect the hustle on that.
Yeah, but I just wanted to say that because that's how much I love Dazed and Confused. I've seen that so many times.
I will say that is my preferred movie of these two, for sure. I think they're both really good, but both are kind of the reason these work so well paired up together is not just because they're about high schoolers and not just because they're kind of hangout movies. It's also because they take place in different time periods. Dazed and Confused takes place in the 70s but is made in the 90s, whereas Fast Times takes place in the 80s and is made in the 80s. So it's like one is a contemporary film, and then Linklater would not like me saying this, but the other one is kind of like a period piece in a way.
Yeah.
And so
I think
you get this kind of nostalgia aspect of Dazed and Confused versus this like illumination of contemporary life that Fast Times has.
I think that's honestly the main difference between the two is based on perspectives of the social times.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of interesting. Again, since that Cameron Crowe didn't direct this movie, he only wrote it based off of I believe he wrote a little I don't remember if it was an article or like a little novel or something, but he was God, what are you? We're gonna have to cut this out, but so Cameron Crowe had to like go undercover in high school. Not in high school, he was an adult, but he had to go undercover as a high schooler to get all the story for the book.
It's like 21 Jump Street.
Yeah, for his writing, so that he could like really get into the nitty-gritty of like what the kids were doing in high school, like as teenagers for that time. And so a lot of the stuff in the movie Fast Time at Richmond High is very, I guess, accurate in its depiction of what high schoolers were doing and saying and talking about and what they were really interested in. And I think that's really, really cool. It's kind of like a little fictional documentary of the early 80s like zeitgeist of the high schooler. And where Dazed and Confused is very similar in that it's kind of like a fictional documentary of the times, but it's all based on the memory of what high school was like to Richard Linklater and how he experienced high school and his friends and like what everybody was doing in the 70s. Pretty much just cruising around, going to parties, hanging out with guys, and like drinking beer and smoking pot.
Yeah.
And that's basically what the movie is. He's just putting his kind of those few really memorable high school experiences into this one movie. And that's what I kind of like about these movies, is that they're just kind of capturing a time that we just don't have anymore.
Definitely. I mean, yeah, if you're watching Fast Times now, it's absolutely. I mean, it's going to feel just as different as Dazed and Confused does now as well.
Yeah.
And I think that if we were to kind of get plot based or get a little more, I guess, I mean, all movies are political in a way.
Yeah, no, these two movies, whether they wanted to or not, are very, they kind of showcase the socio-political time that they were.
Yeah, I mean,
showcasing.
I think they absolutely should, and I think that that's another reason that these movies are really good. Whereas, like, obviously in the synopsis, they kind of break it down. Dazed and Confused has this plot point about the main character, Floyd, right?
Yeah.
He has this what's the word?
Like a contract to.
Well, yeah, he's in this.
He's in the football team.
I'm trying to think of the word. Like you're deliberating between two very hard choices. It's fucking
a dilemma.
Yes, that's what I was thinking of. Anyway, he's in this dilemma about how, signing this no drug petition or not, and it's this kind of idea of like they're oppressing our good times.
It's like how the government was being very oppressive, and how the 70s was like that pushback movement, that counterculture movement, where they're like, no, fuck the government. We don't want to do this stuff. You can't control us. You can't tell us what to do. This is America. This is a free country. And I think that's really how Richard Linklater feels as well. He's like, he doesn't like this, like the ideas of oppression, and he's more about the freedom and just being I guess in the moment. That's why his movies are very much these slice of life films, because he's really just trying to capture a moment in a time, and he doesn't want to conform to like even the type of movies that he's making. He's not trying to conform to just making another high school movie with a bunch of like unnecessary drama and flashy studio lenses and whatnot. He's just trying to make a movie that almost documents what he feels and what it was like in the 70s.
Yeah, I think for him it's all about beauty and simplicity, and beauty and like just the moment, and that's kind of how Boyhood is too. It's like this long like movie that spans over a decade of filming, but it's really about like the moment being the most important thing, you know. I think that's something that's kind of a through line in many of his movies.
Yeah,
is just this idea of like connecting with people, enjoying the fact that you're in present company and having a good time and enjoying being alive. Fast Times at Ridgemont has a bit of a message to it too about like commercialism.
Yeah,
all these characters are working inside of a mall, and there's this one character. I apologize if I forget these characters' names, because there's just a lot of characters in both of these films. But there's this one character that works for like a burger place.
Yeah,
and he takes his job so seriously, and he's like, I'm like the best at this. I'm gonna be. I don't know. He treats it like it's like his career. Like he's gonna move up and work for, you know. We all got a coworker like that. Let's be honest. Like that's a timeless situation that especially people with high school jobs kind of find themselves in. And then of course he gets like this one bad altercation with a customer, and he loses his temper, and he gets fucking fired.
Yeah.
And then he just goes to work somewhere else. So I don't know. I thought that was one of my favorite plot points in the movie. Just this idea, this guy kind of really like he's devoted completely to this. This job
he's really trying to like. He thinks his life's like really gonna get better after high school. Like everything's gonna go good. He's trying to expound out like even his love life. He wants to like break up with his girlfriend, but then she breaks up with him, and he loses his job, and it's going the exact opposite of the way he wanted it to go.
Yeah,
and
flies too close to the sun, gets too cocky about it.
Yeah, I think that is kind of a little look at what the 80s was like. Is kind of this big flashy bravado, kind of stylistically out there time, but really deep down it's kind of hollowed a bit I don't know, filler. It's not as I I don't know, it's not as substantial as you would think it would be.
Yeah, and I think that both of these films do a really good job of creating those kind of microcosms of the time and of the relationship between people and the government, or people and corporations, and you see those things reflected through young people, high schoolers, in these very simple ways. Like, Randall Floyd in Dazed and Confused, he's being asked to sign this no drug pledge by his football coach, but it's like that's just a microcosm of like the kind of thing that would happen a lot in the 70s, of that kind of oppressive feeling that he's having. So it makes the movies a little more, I guess, relatable to people who live through stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very the movies are just very of like the time that they're trying to showcase. Like it just feels like, as as eras kind of come and go, the art, whether it's movies or music or whatever it is, it's always going to be very related to the social atmosphere of what's going on.
It just has to be, yeah. And also the filmmaking in these two movies is a little bit different. Linklater, like we said, he's very much in the present, very slice of life oriented. I mean, obviously Crowe didn't direct this movie, but I think even in the writing, like, his narrative approach is more classical. It's more, there's more of a plot, and there's more of an overarching story, even if it is still very much like moment to moment, a very fun movie that you can kind of go in and out of watching. It's also
really fast. Like, the pacing for this movie and the time, super short movie, and it just flies by.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it just kind of shows a little bit of their differences as a filmmaker, which I think we'll get into more in the next set of movies that we're going to talk about today.
But that's something we're going to see a lot with Richard Linklater, is the fact that his movies, especially the movies that he like is a solo writer and he has complete control over, these movies are very time based. Like Dazed and Confused is in this limited time from the last day of school, the start of the last day of school, to the end of that day.
Like the next morning,
and
is when it ends.
The same with Before Sunrise. It's just a whole day with these two characters.
Yeah.
And with Boyhood, it's very time based, so it's every, I think, year or so.
It's every year of the actors and characters' lives. They filmed like a few weeks, I think.
Yeah.
So it has jumps. It's like very much sectioned out.
And it even goes back to the Before trilogy, where each movie, Before Sunrise, then 9 years later there was Before Sunset, then 9 years later there was Before Midnight, and they're all like kind of sectioned out like that, and they all take place in about 1 day ish.
Yeah.
And you'll see that with like a lot of his movies. They're like, even Everybody Wants Some, it takes place within 3 days, but it's very careful by showing you that each day is a new day, and it's very condensed into these 3 days, and we're only going to take place in these 3 days before the start of the school.
Have you ever heard that phrase that's like, day to day, nothing changes, but if you look back, everything's different?
I don't think I've heard of that, but it's a very good quote.
Yeah. So like, nothing changes in your day to day life. You don't really notice anything, but then if you like look back at several months or a year or whatever, it's like, oh shit, everything's different.
Yeah.
I think Richard Linklater operates in a similar way. I think because if you look at any of his movies, it's like, yeah, before movies are 9 years apart, but it's like you don't really see that until you look back. You're like, damn, look at how far we've come, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think something like that. Cameron Crowe is a little more willing to... I guess his movies are just a little more structured in the way that they... I guess a little more conventionally structured.
Maybe.
In the way that they can take place across weeks.
I feel like in his later years, he structures his movies more on these ideas, these little premises, these little... not really stories, but these kind of through lines. And
Yeah.
a lot of his movies, as I know you haven't seen a lot of them, but as you'll see, it's really just these characters just going through these different scenarios to get to kind of like this, I guess, end game. And it doesn't always, I think, pan out the way that most movies would, and that's why I think a lot of his later films are not as well received, because I think he's putting a lot of different kind of out there experiences, like human condition like experiences in his movies that don't always mesh well with what the story he's trying to say.
Yeah.
Like for instance, Elizabethtown. Have you seen that one?
No.
It's a very interesting movie, but it's a very messy movie because you're just kind of bouncing around these different characters and what they're where the movie starts off versus where the movie ends. It's a very different tone and feel and kind of vibe that's going on. I don't know. It's I don't know how to explain it. I think we might get more thorough when we go down the line, but that's kind of at least the biggest difference between Richard Linklater and Cameron Crowe, is that Linklater is very much based in like a specific limited time, slice of life kind of thing, where Cameron Crowe is more expansive in his ideas of what the human condition is.
And I also want to just mention before we move on that Fast Times is directed by a woman.
Yeah.
And so there is, I think, through the filmmaking itself, a inherently more of a feminine perspective on things in certain moments that I found kind of surprising, because I didn't know that before we started to put it on, and I was like, oh, this was directed by a woman. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's directed by the lady that did Clueless. Let me double check. Her name's Amy something.
It is Amy Heckerling.
Yeah. But yeah, good director. I mean, she really does kind of put that kind of female experience in there, where you kind of see the perspectives of the female characters, like literally, like POV sometimes, where it's not the fact that Richard Linklater doesn't put female perspectives in his movie, as opposed to it's not as directly like POV.
It's not as like palpable in the filmmaking itself, but I mean, we'll see with the before movies that he worked so closely with Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy to develop those characters and to make those movies with them. It was like it's very much like a kind of that 3-person collaborative effort between those 3 artists. Yeah,
and Julie definitely gives her own opinions and her own perspective of her character, and that really shines through. Like, it really feels like that's her talking about the things that she's talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool.
And even in Dazed and Confused, there's girls and they're female characters, and they're all fairly fleshed out. Like I like the differences in how the male characters kind of treat each other versus how the female characters treat each other. Even with the hazing stuff, how all the guys have to get paddled for their hazing to come into high school, where all the girls are just kind of publicly shamed with like throwing condiments on them and like flour and ketchup.
Yeah, it's very the difference is, it's clearly kind of delineated between the two.
Yeah, it's almost like the girls are very much more of a, with the whole public shaming thing, it's more about, how they're perceived and how people look at them, and that type of hazing is more shameful than anything else, whereas the guys, it's more shameful to get physically like paddled, like you're getting spanked, rather than the outward humility of like getting ketchup thrown on you.
Yeah,
like there's a very big difference of the physical attributes between male and female, and how each one is hazed differently. Like just imagine if the girls were getting paddled and the guys were. It's I don't know. It's very interesting how you kind of differentiate between the two. Even how the guys talk to each other versus how the girls talk to each other. Very, very interesting how the kind of the cliques and the social atmosphere is different, and he's very much aware of that even in his movies.
Yeah, definitely. These are both really good. I like both of these.
Yeah.
I think it makes for a good double feature for sure.
Yeah, I honestly, yeah, and I also think that these two movies are again highly inspired by American Graffiti, George Lucas.
Definitely.
Definitely. Dazed and Confused more on the kind of structure, like how it's all in one night and all these things are happening and you're kind of with these characters doing their own different things.
Yeah.
And for the Fast Times, it's more of I think a stylistic thing where you hear all the music, you're with these characters, but it also ends on the characters and like what their future looks like, kind of like how in American Graffiti it ends with all the characters.
Which is that part in American Graffiti kind of like surprised me.
Yeah, it's a bummer of an ending.
It's kind of crazy. Like it's like, oh wow.
But then there's also the sequel, which I actually haven't seen because it's not written or directed by George Lucas, so I don't really care that much. But
yeah, interesting.
At some point I probably will watch it. But yeah, very similar and yet very different types of movies, and
that's what we're gonna see.
Yeah,
that's what this is all about. So let's get into Say Anything
and Before Sunrise, which I think these are very interesting to compare and contrast because they're both romantic comedies in a way. They're both more romance than comedy, but
I think Say Anything is more of a comedy. I think Before Sunrise has jokes in it. Like it has funny moments in it, but they feel very natural as opposed to feeling like they're supposed to be funny. It just kind of feels like the characters are making each other laugh and you're just there with them. Whereas in Say Anything, it feels a little more cinematic, the way that it's funny.
Yeah, I would agree. But they're both romance movies.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's some clear differences here as well. So let me just read the synopsis real quick. So this is for Say Anything. Lloyd, an eternal optimist, seeks to capture the heart of Diane, an unattainable high school beauty and straight-A student. He surprises just about everyone, including himself, when she returns the sentiment, but Diane's overpossessive, divorced dad disapproves, and it's going to take more than just the power of love to conquer all. And then the synopsis for Before Sunrise says, a young man and woman meet on a train in Europe and wind up spending one evening together in Vienna. Unfortunately, both know that this will probably be their only night together. Okay, very simple on that one.
Yeah, it's very simple. Like I feel like that's most Richard Linklater movies. Yeah. Like it's a very simple premise, but he gets very existential with it sometimes.
Yeah. So for me, Before Sunrise, one of my favorite movies for sure. I think, like you said, these are both definitely romantic movies, and both leads, the co-leads, the romantic leads in the movie, have really good chemistry. I think the movie hinges on that so much in Before Sunrise. Like, if that didn't work, then the movie wouldn't work.
Yeah.
In Say Anything, I guess you could say the same thing, but there's a lot of fun supporting characters that make that movie really entertaining in other ways. And then there is that dad character in there that I think is very integral to the movie, because what I believe, and you can disagree with me on this, what I believe is that Say Anything is it's more about a message or a theme about honesty and about openness than it is about a specific genre or being kind of a romance movie, even though it is. I think that's more of a vehicle, whereas Before Sunrise, it's kind of that slice of life, like, hangout movie, but it's the romance is more integral to, like, how the movie works.
Yeah.
And making the movie work, because that is like the one thing that you were able to invest yourself in completely, and if you're not going to like the movie.
Well, I agree, but I also disagree, because I think the same thing can be said about Say Anything, where if the romance doesn't work, obviously the movie doesn't work.
Right, but I think there's a little more to it.
It's just more plot heavy than Before Sunrise. It's just the connect. So yes, the movie is more the theme about trust and like being honest with each other is very, very prevalent in it. It's a very heavy theme in the movie because the main girl wants to trust her father in what he's saying, but he's lying. And then you have this guy who wants to be with her and be her boyfriend, and he's just super blunt and very straightforward and will never lie to her. And
he doesn't really sugarcoat it either.
Yeah, he's just very forward, but he's also very charming in that way too, where because he's so honest, it makes him more charming.
Yeah.
It doesn't. There's no sense of betrayal coming from him. Even all the characters, they're just like he's great. Like he's kind of the perfect guy. And the dad, like on the forefront, like from on the surface, he is also a perfect dad who's very supportive of his daughter and wants her to be at her very best, and he's really pulling for her. But on the inside, he's lying about a lot of stuff that isn't necessarily about her, but about
but
financial
he's doing
decisions
stuff for her that is not moral. It's not ethically good.
Yeah.
And I just think it's. I guess what I mean. I guess I'm explaining it poorly. What I mean is like all the characters in that movie, the relationships are defined by that thread of honesty, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Before Sunrise, it's literally you're just watching them connect as people.
Well,
there's not really like a.
There's not a theme.
There's not. I don't want to say there's not a theme, but there's something at play that's like.
Yeah, there's not a mechanic of the plot
to
really push them in any direction here or there.
Right.
Which,
I think that's
I agree
just
with.
The Crowe versus Linklater kind of difference that we're trying to hit.
I think that is really the biggest difference is that Crowe does need kind of a mechanics to the plot to make the movie work.
Yeah, like that's how the engine runs in the movie. Whereas Linklater's just like, these actors are charming. They can monologue and have these kind of interesting conversations, and let's just go, man. Let's just do it. And the scenery is beautiful.
Yeah, with Richard Linklater, like you said, his movies can be very existential in like the conversations that people have. They're very, very big brain conversations sometimes. I think that's the stoner in him just coming out and just talking about just crazy stuff, which do make sense, but they're also very involving and very like you really get into those conversations, and that's why they really stick with audiences, and that's why people love his characters and the dialogue, because even though sometimes it could be a lot, it's very interesting in what they're saying, and you could either kind of take Ethan Hawke's side, or you could take Julia Delpy's side in certain conversational, like what they're talking about. For instance, there's that one scene where a guy they meet a guy and he's like, I could write a poem for you guys, just give me a word, and he does it. And then they're like, oh, it's very impressive. And the conversation afterward is Ethan's like, he had that stuff planned. He had most of it written out already, but he took the word and then he just made a little thing. And then the girls, Julie is just like, no, I think maybe he really did do that. And so you kind of have
learning about the characters that way.
Yeah, you kind of learn their psychology and like what they're going through, and eventually later on in the movie you kind of do figure out their backgrounds and like why they were actually on that trip in the first place, and it grows deeper. And I think the way the way he structures the way that they talk and like how we kind of figure them out is really interesting. In Say Anything, I think you find out more about the characters through other characters than through themselves.
Yes.
And I think that's also really interesting. And I think that's the ironic thing about Say Anything is the movie's called Say Anything because you want the characters to say what they feel, be open and truthful about themselves, but they aren't. The father doesn't say anything. He
says you can say anything to me.
Yeah,
you can.
But he's not open. He's not saying anything. He's hiding the truth. He's being very secretive, and the boyfriend isn't.
What I think is great about it too is that movie could also just be seen as like this guy kind of entering this girl's life, and like obviously they fall in love and everything, but he also kind of helps her and her father see each other clearer and better. And I think that is one of the more unexpected and beautiful parts of the movie that I did not see coming at all, because I just thought it was a romance movie when I put it on, obviously. Before Sunrise, what you were saying about the characters and learning about their psychology, and like kind of you can like take a side in what they're saying and what they're talking about and agree with one or the other. I think it's really good at illustrating like the different ways that they think. But I like that the movie's not really agreeing with one character. It's not really saying like this character is right, or this is like the message of the movie, or this is what you have to get from this. It's really just like, look, these people, this is how they click, this is why they get along. And I guess if there's any question to take away from it, it's like, would they be interacting the same, falling in love the same, if they had met under different circumstances?
Yes.
And that's kind of the question that they ask themselves constantly throughout the rest of the series of those movies as well.
Yeah, I think Before Sunrise is so unfiltered with the two characters. It's such a unique premise to have two strangers, just kind of go the entire day just talking to each other and like figuring out each other, and they obviously kind of like each other. If not, they wouldn't even have this conversation, this whole day together. And it's just this two unfiltered people who don't know each other, and they can basically talk about whatever, and without putting on any sort of mask or trying to like prove themselves in any one way or another.
In Before Sunrise, there's not really a difficulty with like I think their honesty with one another comes by choice only, whereas in Say Anything, there's like kind of other factors in the way.
So with Say Anything, they're obstructed from saying anything, from being so truthful with one another because of the perspectives of their friends and family surrounding them, and they have these ideas about these people that don't really matter, but to, like, for instance, the father has this idea about the boyfriend that he's just a nobody. He's a low-life kind of guy. He's like sweet, sure, but he's not going to bring anything for you. He's not going to like pull you up or whatever. Yeah. He just has a bad feeling about the boyfriend.
Yeah.
And that really messes with the girl's perspective of the boyfriend. She even breaks up with him in the movie because her dad kind of wants her to, and she's struggling with the, like, should I be his girlfriend or should I not?
But you see how the father saying that about him is a projection based on his own values of material possessions, and having that as a way to show your love and dedication to somebody, and that's kind of something he does to a fault in the movie.
Yeah.
And so you see how his lack of honesty with her causes him to say something that may not even be true and make a judgment on someone else. And because she trusts him so much, even though he's being dishonest, it leads her to taking those kinds of actions.
And that's the thing. These opinions of these other people are obstructing the true relationship between the two people.
Yes.
So if the father wasn't involved, they would just be together, and they would like each other, and they would like grow naturally like they do in Before Sunrise. But because you have the opinions of the friends and the opinions of the family,
which are also very personally motivated based on what they think is what they prioritize in their own lives.
Yeah, even John Cusack, he has to ask advice from all these people about what should I do, or maybe I should do this, and there's a lot of back and forth.
Yeah, he's introducing himself to so many secondary voices that it's obstructing his most powerful characteristic, which is his honesty and his openness. And if he just operated more on that and trusted himself more, it would probably go better quicker.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what's interesting about these two movies is the way that we interact with people can change drastically based on the situations that we're in.
Yeah, and the environment. People. Yeah, exactly. It's like it shows us how, in Say Anything, these two characters could have fallen in love in a night, just like Jesse and Celine do in Before Sunrise. But because of all of these external factors, they take longer to get there. Whereas in Before Sunrise, we see it all happen over the course of a night, and they form this kind of stronger connection because they're in this almost this like limbo state where they're like between. They're not surrounded by life or noise or other people.
There's no filter. There's no external hindrance to their own emotional like setting. Like they don't have to like hide anything from each other because they're strangers. They don't know each other.
Perhaps Linklater is trying to get at the fact that if we're able to be in a noiseless environment with each other, we would have a far easier time connecting with one another.
Absolutely. Like even today, again, it gets political.
It always does.
It always does. Like even today online, if we didn't have such a strong presence online with such a vast discourse about certain subjects, people would be able to think for themselves. But we don't think for ourselves anymore because of social media, because everybody's telling us what to think. They're telling us, like, oh, if you're doing this, then you're a bad person, or if you do this, you're a good person, or like this is what's right, this is what's wrong.
We're afraid of our own convictions now.
Yeah, and so now we're being obstructed from getting any actual thing being done. We can't get any relations to actually to work
form
out
those real strong bonds. Yeah. That I mean, and that's because I think there's this idea that we all have to agree on everything to be friends and to connect with one another. I think it's important to show that Jesse and Celine don't agree on anything, or not anything. They don't agree on everything. Is what I meant to say. They're very different in a lot of ways, and you can see how they can still be stronger together because of those differences. But for some reason, that's almost like a lost idea now, because we're not able to walk around Vienna for one night with everybody and understand each other in that way. But it is beautiful when you do get a moment like that.
It is also cool because Before Sunrise is based on a real experience that Richard Linklater had with a girl.
Yeah,
and sad part about that story is that when he tried to get back into contact with that girl after making the movie, she had died. So
that's really sad, actually.
Yeah,
well,
but
I mean,
it's a
at
really
least
cool...
he has her memory in these movies.
Yeah, I think that's really cool because it's such a great premise too. Like to just have two characters who don't know each other. They're both in a different part of the world, and they're just kind of using each other's the fact that they both just can speak English to each other in a world that's very foreign. They could experience that environment together, and by doing that together, they could experience themselves together as well, and kind of open up in ways that they never could with friends or family or people that they just know in their real lives.
Yeah, and like you also see it in the fact that, I don't know, there's the sense in these movies where they think about like getting advice from other people. Like they do that fake phone call scene, but really they're talking to each other.
Yeah.
And it's like they're really able to make their own, I guess, decisions, even if they're crazy. Like they're just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do that. Yeah. I'm gonna get off this train. Like, I guess in Say Anything, the catalyst for the relationship is similar in the sense that the man just kind of like is like, do this thing with me, and she's like, all right, sure.
Yeah, he just calls her. She doesn't even know who he is. She has to look in the yearbook to like figure out who is this guy. But he he takes that leap of faith and is like, hey, do you want to go to this party with me? And she's like, sure. Nobody's asking me before.
I also think Before Sunrise illustrates what you were talking about like pretty well, pretty early on, with the whole, like the way they meet is like a couple is fighting in another language on the train and they can't understand, or I guess
Ethan Hawke
can't understand. She says she can only understand a little bit. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Semantics, right? So she's they're arguing, and then that's what starts their conversation. They're like, you know what they're talking about at all? And it's like, no, it's like everybody's kind of in their own little pocket, little isolated world, and then that kind of just like sparks the connection between the two of them, and then they start talking, and that's it.
And then he has the crazy idea of being like, let's get off this train right now.
Yeah.
And just see the town.
So both great movies. I'm Team Linklater on both of these, but
I am Team Linklater on both of these for sure. Like, he's just gonna be, for me personally, a more I've always related to his films more than Cameron Crowe. But that being said, I think Cameron Crowe can be very, very detailed in the themes that he's trying to present.
Yeah.
And I love Say Anything because
I loved it too.
I just think it's so well written in terms of the characters and the fact that it is like this romance comedy, but there's this external element of her dad just like having these financial problems.
Yeah.
And it kind of disrupts the romance, and that's the disruption of the romance that really makes the movie work. Where in most other romantic comedies, the disruption is within the two characters.
But we're seeing how we're seeing in that movie how we let a lot of external factors dictate our internal happiness, and our personal happiness, and our pursuit of it.
And I think that's great, and I truly do. I think Say Anything is like one of those great romantic comedies of its time.
It's excellent, and Before Sunrise, I think, is again one of my favorite movies ever. So
I also wanted to mention, sorry to cut you off,
go ahead.
But what I love about these two directors that I've always found interesting, because they both do this, they're very into music. They are very into music, and their needle drops are always like top tier needle drops of all time. They're so good. Like Dazed and Confused, like the soundtrack,
amazing.
Banger from top to bottom. It's so good. And even the music in Say Anything, really good. They got the whole boombox thing with the Peter Gabriel song.
That's worth mentioning for
it's
sure.
So even in Fast Times, good soundtrack. And because Cameron Crowe was he used to work for Rolling Stones, the magazine. He would write a lot of like music based reviews and stories, and he's really into that I guess that atmosphere, that music based atmosphere. Like even in his later movies when he like Singles, it's in Seattle. It's based around the grunge scene. Like
they go to a lot of music shows in that.
He bases his movies around these like musical like genres in some senses. Where Almost Famous is like the classic rock, like back in the 70s. And I think he also has just a huge vinyl collection. I think
Probably.
I saw this interview with him in his house, and the back is kind of like our thing, but it's all vinyl. And I just love their use of music and how they're both very, very knowledgeable about music, and they'll utilize it in their films a lot.
I also want to say real quick, I did say I was Team Linklater on these two movies. I don't want to confuse anybody with that verbiage of like Team Linklater. Like, we're not trying to pit these filmmakers against each other and say, because it's obviously they're very different in a lot of ways, as we've discussed. Like, this is for fun.
Yeah.
We're just trying to kind of see what we can learn from these movies as like in conversation with one another, rather than being like, which movie's better? You know what I mean? It's really like about appreciating the unique qualities of each, and then seeing how they can kind of inform one another if you watch them together, and like we can pull some more meaning out of it that way. Yeah. And that's, I think, what we kind of did with both of these movies.
Yeah, like even for instance, like Say Anything and Before Sunrise. I think Before Sunrise, personally, I think it's the better film.
Yeah.
But I would rewatch Say Anything more than I would more rewatch Say Anything than I would Before Sunrise.
That's a little bit more like casual, I guess, in my opinion, as well. But I would say like it's just great because we can look at both of these movies great on their own.
Yeah.
And then you kind of see how one shows how noise and external factors can impact the development of a relationship, and then we also see how the absence of that allows a relationship to blossom so easily over the course of one night, and then we're able to kind of understand those things in our own lives. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
and that's why we wanted to put these two directors together, because even though they're trying to get to the same place, they're both doing very different things to get there.
Or they're going to a different place, but their voices are unique, and they've got like enough of a parable kind of filmography that I think we could these are things we can learn from these movies. Yeah.
So I mean,
really
those are
the
kind of short-ish, based on like our past.
But this is
reviews.
good though,
Yeah.
because we did Ryan Johnson and Shane Black, and it was like an hour and a half, and we covered like 7 or 8 pairs of movies, and it's like this is going to be a lot better, I think, because we're going to be a lot more thorough. So stay tuned for the next one in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have. Should we talk about?
Yeah,
what
might
movies?
as well. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about Singles paired with Everybody Wants Some, and we're going to be talking about Almost Famous paired with School of Rock. So
I think that's going to be a fun one, because a lot of people love Almost Famous and School of Rock, and that's going to be a fun one to go through.
Okay, so stay tuned for that in 2 weeks. Stay tuned for next week's episode, which will be on something completely different. And some questions for you guys listening. What is your favorite romance movie? Mine might very well be Before Midnight. That's my favorite of those
really?
three.
Now, might get a lot of hate for this, but I have not seen Before Midnight.
And I never understood why you...
To be completely honest, I'm terrified. I'm terrified of watching that, because I love those characters so much, and I want them to be nice, happy.
You'll
I'm
like it.
And I'm
You'll
terrified
like
of the idea of them arguing. And I'm just like, I don't want my parents to argue, please. I just want them to be nice. You have to man up and watch that, bro. I definitely will at some point.
We're watching it right after this.
But yeah, I'll see it at some point.
And then so I like Before Midnight the best, but all 3 of these would count. I'm trying to not to like just name movies we fucking talked about, but now I'm blanking on other romance films.
Yeah, I am kind of blanking on.
You know what I really like? I think it's a movie kind of about addiction in a way, but it's like it somehow finds a way to be very romantic by the end. One of my favorite movies I think is extremely underrated and in a way misunderstood is Don John.
Okay.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt. That's one of my favorite romantic comedies.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I remember you used to talk about it a lot. You're like, oh,
it's so great.
Good.
It's one of the best. I love it.
Yeah, I remember liking it when I saw it.
Yeah, we watched it together. Yeah.
For me, shoot, honestly, anything with like Audrey Hepburn in it.
Oh yeah.
I'm just gonna be down for that. I remember watching like Breakfast at Tiffany's for the first time. Some questionable stuff in that movie, but overall, that's like one of the movies where I saw Audrey Hepburn for the first time, and immediately I was like, fan. I'm like, anything she's in, I will watch. Like, for the same thing happened when I watched very off topic now, but when I watched Outlaw King, that was on Netflix, and Florence Pugh was in it. That was the first movie I ever saw Florence Pugh in.
Really?
And I literally the same reaction that I had. I was like, I'm going to watch everything this woman's in for the rest of my life.
For me, it was Fighting with My Family.
Oh, yeah,
that was the one she was in. Yeah, great choice. I think some unconventional ones I could name. I think technically a romance movie, Rear Window. I like that one. It's a development of a romance.
Oh, my God.
The way that it, and Grace Kelly, so good. And then The Village.
Oh yeah. I guess to be specific more than just anything with Audrey Hepburn, I would say my favorite romance movie that she's in is Roman Holiday. Nice. I love that movie a lot.
I need to see it.
It's very good. And I guess we also have what's your favorite hangout movie? It's Dazed and Confused. It always has been, and it probably always will be. It's
Dazed and Confused, or if you count it,
maybe Big Lebowski.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Ooh, Once Upon a Time in
Hollywood. Or The Big
Hollywood.
Lebowski.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, like if I had to give like a top 4, of hangout movies. This is so fucking basic, but I just love all these movies. It would be like Dazed and Confused. It would be Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It would be The Big Lebowski, and it would be like Licorice Pizza, maybe.
Yeah, no, those are all great. I would like. Yeah, I could say all those too. Maybe not Licorice Pizza because I haven't seen it as much as the others.
It's the one I hesitate the most to say, but I do really love that movie.
No, it is. Yeah, it's great.
It's just that I don't know. That's what it came to me right now. We're like looking around. We're like, damn, where the hangout movies at?
We're all, yeah, no, those.
Oh, if you count like Greg Araki, like the Doom generation,
yeah, no,
it's kind of got some road trip hangout movie elements to it, or like Nowhere. Those are amazing as well.
Oh, American Graffiti, come on.
Oh, American Graffiti,
like the classic, the OG hangout movie.
Great.
But yeah, let us know what you guys think. What you guys think of these movies, what your favorite romance or hangout movie is.
Let us know if there's any similarities or differences or observations about these movies that we didn't cover that you might have.
Yeah.
We're very interested in continuing the discussion. And if you do leave a comment, we'll probably address it in the next one.
Yeah. Also give us some more ideas on any other dual directors that might be interesting.
Yeah, director pairings or any other kind of ideas that you want us, films you want us to cover. You can send us an email in the description, or leave a comment. Follow us on other platforms as well. Stay up to date.
Yeah.
We release episodes every Monday. All right, that's it. You want to say anything else?
I think we're good. 2 weeks from now, we'll have another one. So look out for that.
Stay tuned. I've been Peyton.
And I've been Adryon.
And we will see you next time on the Apple Box.